She pleaded, "Please don't uncover it," but his shocking discovery forever changed their lives. As Michael pulled down the dusty attic stairs, he heard his mother's voice echo in his mind. It felt like a warning. "Don't go up there, Michael." But curiosity gripped him. What had she hidden beneath the eaves of their home, now his heavy burden since her passing? He hesitated at the top, a mix of grief and guilt roiling within him. A flicker of light from a cracked window caught his eye, urging him to step into a world that might reveal secrets long buried. His heart raced as he sifted through old crates, each item a ghost of the past. Frayed letters filled with faded ink told stories he never knew, yet there was something deeper, a heaviness in his chest that made him question what he defined. And then he found them, paintings tucked away, each canvas pulsating with vibrant colors and raw emotion. These weren't just artworks, they were echoes of his grandmother's hidden life as a painter, someone the town never acknowledged. Overwhelmed, he imagined how Lily would enviously gaze at such beauty, longing to unleash her own artistic flair but constrained by their meager income. This could inspire her, he murmured, a flicker of hope igniting within him. But even as he thought it, Michael felt the weight of dread sink in. What if unveiling this legacy only brought judgment from the townsfolk? They could turn their backs, dismissing his family for the secrets unearthed. They wouldn't care about his grandmother's talent, only her choices to hide in the shadows. That evening, he confronted Sarah, his childhood friend, filled with bubbling excitement about the gallery showing he envisioned. "Just think, Sarah. My grandmother's work, everyone will finally see her brilliance." Her voice lowered, the atmosphere filled with tension. "Michael, you really need to think before you act. This town is unforgiving." Her words struck him like a slap. He had always respected Sarah's perceptive mind, but now, doubt crept in, gnawing at his conviction. What if she was right? Just as he thought he was on the verge of fulfilling a dream, she dropped a shocking revelation: her grandmother had once been a close friend of his own, prompting secrets to unravel like thread from a fraying sweater. "You don't know what you're getting into," she urged, eyes wide with worry. A frown etched on his face as he wrestled with the enormity of it all. What if the revelation unmade everything he sought to build for Lily? The fear of judgment lingered, bleak and heavy. Would he be heralded as a hero for honoring his family's legacy, or ostracized for dredging up old wounds? The thought of Lily's dreams becoming collateral damage in their quest for acceptance twisted his insides. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. His heart now pounded with urgency as the gallery date loomed just weeks away. How could he bear this to not just Lily, but their entire community? Michael's mind raced, a battleground of hope clashing with despair. Would he risk everything, stirring a pot of long-held grievances, or would he bury the past once more for the sake of quiet comfort? The looming decision weighed heavily, beckoning him forward into a world where truth met potential backlash. Time was slipping through his fingers like sand. Would he emerge from the shadows to shine with his grandmother's legacy, or would they remain trapped beneath the weight of judgmental eyes? As he gripped the old letters with trembling hands, Michael faced a shuddering realization: the choice ahead of him could irrevocably reshape their lives, standing at the precipice between embrace and exile. The tension thrummed deep in his chest, an open wound ready to spill, leaving him in a spiraling uncertainty where the past intersected with an unknown future, echoing the urgent call of unfinished dreams. Michael stood at the brink of decision, the weight of his discoveries pressing down on him like a leaden shroud. Inhaling sharply, he ran a hand through his hair, restless energy stirring inside him. The attic's treasures had unlocked a hidden chapter in his family's history, one that he feared would resurface the town's long-buried resentments. And yet, The artist in him felt a compelling urge to share these paintings, to let the world experience his grandmother's hidden brilliance. But as he shifted through the memories swirling in his thoughts, another realization hit him like a jolt. For too long, he had sheltered himself and his family from the very truths that could liberate them. Fear of judgment had defined their existence, creating a monotonous cycle of silence. Michael wrestled with this notion: who were they becoming when they allowed others' opinions to dictate their choices? He pictured Lily's hopeful gaze, sensing a passionate spark buried within her, hidden by the very doubts that shadowed his own heart. Determined to guide her through the labyrinth of self-expression, he knew he had to confront not only the community but also his own fears. Walking to the window, he let the evening light wash over him, illuminating the canvases he had grown to cherish. Their vibrant strokes seemed to dance, urging him to step into a world of color and creativity that had been silenced for too long. What if I could change that? He pondered, a newfound sense of agency taking root. Tomorrow, he planned to talk to Lily about the potential gallery showing, even if it meant facing the truth he had dreaded. He needed her feedback but, more importantly, he wanted her input on what her grandmother's legacy meant to her. It was one thing to present the art, but it was another thing entirely to share its emotional context. Would she feel the same thrill he felt, or would the shadows of the past loom too large for her? That night, as he drifted into an uneasy sleep, dreams of vibrant colors and swirling brush strokes blended into a chaotic montage. The town's harsh whispers faded into a lullaby of possibilities, and he awoke the next morning with a renewed sense of purpose. The plan to unveil his grandmother's legacy was no longer just an afterthought, it had taken on a life of its own, beckoning him forward as if it were a family heirloom waiting to be revealed to the world. When he finally sat down with Lily, he observed her keen eyes as she studied his words and the subtle excitement brewing behind her initial hesitance. "Lily, what if we could do this together? What if we could honor Grandma in a way that made her feel alive again?" He watched the emotions play across her face, a storm of confusion and intrigue blending together. But the doubts returned, creeping in at the edges. What if Lily, much like the townsfolk, recoiled at the thought? What if she believed the legacy was too heavy to carry? Throughout their conversation, the oscillation between hope and fear echoed in the air, drowning out his steady resolve. "Michael," she finally said, her voice steady. "What if they just see her mistakes? What if they can't understand her choices?" This was uncharted territory for him, and he struggled to frame a response. The weight of her words, and the fears they carried, settled over him like a heavy fog. How could he reassure her that exposure could lead not just to criticism but to liberation? As the silence stretched between them, Michael took a deep breath, realizing this was not merely about art, it was about healing intergenerational wounds, about stepping into the conflict that had stymied their growth. His heart raced at the enormity of what laid ahead. At that moment, he grasped that this journey would demand more from him than he had anticipated: self-assurance, vulnerability, an unwavering commitment to uplift not just his grandmother's spirit but also Lily's. Feeling the tension building once again, he faced her with renewed determination. "We can't know what lies ahead until we try, right?" But as he spoke those words, his mind whirred with uncertainty. He understood that the gallery showing would not merely be an exhibition of paintings, it would be a confrontation of identities: his, Lily's, and the community's. Would they emerge victorious, or would their past, long silenced and carefully buried, seek to drown them once more? The stakes had never been higher, and each breath felt pregnant with possibility and peril. The narrative thread unraveled before him, leaving an open question hanging in the air: was he truly ready to face the town and, ultimately, himself in the light of what unveiling their truths could mean? The moment hung like a suspended breath in the air. The weight of Michael's words pressed against the fragile fabric of their shared reality. "We can't know what lies ahead until we try, right?" echoed in the corners of his mind, rebounding off fears and hopes alike. He had sought to rally both his resolve and Lily's, yet now he grappled with the reality that the fears he had sought to confront could unravel everything. Lily's brow creased in concentration, her internal battle moving to the surface. Michael observed the shift in her demeanor. she shifted slightly in her seat and clenched her hands, a defensive posture that betrayed her apprehension. It was evident to him that she was wrestling with ages of expectations and familial legacies, striving to define herself amidst a tidal wave of uncertainty. "Michael," she replied, her voice cautious, "what if exploring this legacy only unearths pain? What if it isolates us even more?" Each word was like a stone, cast into the still waters of his intentions, sending ripples of doubt spiraling outward. He realized he needed more than reassurance, he needed to connect with her apprehensions at a deeper level. He leaned forward, his palms resting on the table. "Maybe pain is a part of this journey, but so is healing. We can transform that hurt into a story that celebrates Grandma's life instead of condemning it." In his voice, he felt a resonance of truth. It was not merely about the paintings, it was about the stories behind them, the glimpses into the vulnerabilities that had shaped their grandmother. Lily looked away, fixing her gaze on a distant corner of the room, and for a fleeting moment, Michael saw the artist within her flicker and fade. "But what if her story isn't one worth telling?" she whispered, the fragility of her hope breaking through. He wanted to reach past her doubt, to illuminate the potential they held. "Lily, think of it this way. Every artist takes risks, even Grandma. This isn't just about her feelings, it's about how we reclaim her narrative for ourselves. Whatever mistakes she made, they belong to her, but they shape us, our family." A moment of silence swelled as Michael's heart pounded in realization. This was not merely a gallery showing, it was a chance to engage with their legacy, to weave together their lives with the threads of history and art. He felt an urgency to pull her into that vision. This could be our opportunity to redefine who we are within the story. We can embrace our uncertainties, show that joy can exist alongside sorrow. He watched her features shift subtly as if she were weighing each possibility against the other. In her silence, he sensed a flicker of something emerging, a slight movement toward possibility. Encouraged, he pressed on, "We're not just revealing Grandma's legacy, we're revealing who we are and who we want to be. Isn't that worth the risk?" Lily finally met his gaze, and in that moment, a flicker of determination ignited between them. "So, you're saying we step out of our constraints? We expose this legacy not just to the town, but to ourselves?" She paused, her voice steadying. "If that's the case, then I want to try. I'm scared, Michael, but I want to honor her in the way she deserves." A surge of exhilaration coursed through him. Together they could explore, confront, and illuminate their grandmother's world, embracing both the light and the shadows. Suddenly, it felt as though walls were beginning to crumble, a path forward appeared less clouded. Yet, as they exchanged this stirring resolve, a gnawing sense of dread lingered in the background. Both knew they stood at the precipice of a revelation, and once they stepped forward, there would be no turning back. What if the unveiling unleashed something far darker than they had anticipated? Michael shook his head slightly to detach from the looming apprehension, but internalized the truth buried in this endeavor. What if this journey required sacrifices he had yet to consider? "We'll take it one step at a time," he said, taking a breath to steady himself. "But first, let us dig deeper into those paintings. It's time to give them the voice they deserve." Just as certainty touched the edges of his excitement, a crackling noise shuddered through the air as if the universe echoed their decision, both exhilarating and frightening. With tension coiling back in, Michael felt an unsettling shift. What was lurking beneath the surface of their grandmother's legacy, and how far might they have to go to unearth the truth? As the weight of the unknown threatened to crush them, Michael knew the next step was only the beginning of a much larger journey. Amid the promise of discovery, there hovered a chilling realization: was he truly prepared for what awaited them in the shadows? The early morning light breached the curtains, slipping through the gaps like tentative fingers, hesitant to disturb the silence that lay thick in the air. Michael sat at the small, well-worn table that had once been a canvas for family dinners and lively discussions. Now, it felt like a battleground where resolve would either harden or fracture. He could still see the remnants of the constructs his grandmother had carefully built around her stories and her art, and now it felt like the entire weight of her world rested on his shoulders. Armed with courage that trembled on the edge of doubt, he stared at the array of paintings displayed against the wall, their vivid hues a stark contrast to the sadness he sensed wafting off the canvas. Each piece told tales of struggle interwoven with beauty, manifestations of a woman grappling with her own legacy. Michael picked up a brush, feeling its weight against his palm, a mundane tool now transformed into an instrument of discovery. He felt the impending pressure of both his ambition and the fear he'd sensed in Lily. Could he measure the cost of delving deeper into their grandmother's tumultuous past? The thought unsettled him, yet he quashed it. Today was about reclaiming agency, not just for himself but for Lily, too. He turned around, contemplating how best to pursue a narrative that had not just shaped them but had twisted, turned, and faded in the backdrop of their minds. "Lily," he called, his voice insistent yet tender. The rustling of footsteps brought her into view, and he could read the apprehension mingling with curiosity on her face. "Let's start with the blue one. The one she painted during that rough patch. There's something raw in it that feels like both a cry and an embrace." She approached, her vulnerability masked with a facade of interest. "Do you really think we can extract anything worthwhile from it?" she queried, glancing at the painting like it was a stranger instead of a cherished family artifact. Michael took a breath, aware that Lily's unspoken fears were gnarled with grief. "It's not just about what we uncover, it's about how we choose to interpret her journey. Each brush stroke is a decision, a path she's walked. What if we could learn not only about her but about ourselves through her pain and her struggles?" He could see her considering this, engaging with the possibility that lay before them. For the first time, polite resistance started to wane, and he could almost hear the quiet shift in her thoughts. Encouragement welled within him, and he pushed ahead. "We need to honor her story as a whole, not just the parts we find comfortable." As they inspected the painting, Michael found himself enraptured by the tantalizing unknown. He felt the familiar flicker of inspiration welling up inside him, a testament to his own mounting desire to overcome fear. Closer examination unveiled vibrant colors clashing against muted tones, echoes of their grandmother's fierce spirit enveloping them in an intoxicating embrace of history and emotion. But then doubt reared its head again. The act of peering too far into the recesses of their past felt precarious. What if they stumbled upon truths better left shrouded in obscurity? In that moment, he braced himself against the emotional turbulence despite the pressing urge to forge onward. "I know it seems daunting, but think about why she painted this," he said, directing the focus back to the chaotic beauty on the canvas. "Each color choice, each stroke, it whispers secrets. We may stumble upon strength we didn't know existed." Lily's gaze turned away, now lost in contemplation, and uncertainty threaded through her silence. Could she also discover the unimagined resilience that resided within them? Did her creative essence mirror their grandmother's, just waiting for the right catalyst? Their conversation hung in uncertainty, ripe with the potential for revelation but layered with the haunting specter of despair. With a sudden resolve, Michael stood taller. "Let us give voice to these paintings, Lily. Embrace the uncertainty, it's part of the journey we need to take together." As apprehension clashed against determination, Michael felt an unmistakable shift in the fabric of their reality, as if the universe itself were leaning in, eager for their next move. Yet, the question loomed, what would they ultimately find buried deep within the legacy, and how might those discoveries reshape their paths forever? An unseen weight pressed on him, and even as hope threaded through their conversation, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were mere steps away from a truth that could redefine everything they thought they knew about their grandmother and themselves. The paintbrush hovered above the canvas, a moment frozen in time as Michael and Lily wrestled with uncertainty. He felt the pressure of the moment, each heartbeat echoing in his ears as if the world had narrowed down to this single choice, to delve into their grandmother's narrative or to retreat into the safety of silence. "Lily," he said gently, breaking the stillness, "what if we host our own exploration? We could document not just her artwork but our reactions to it too. Your thoughts, my reflections, our interpretations intermixed. It could be liberating." She regarded him with eyes reflecting trepidation. "Do you truly believe that?" It feels like we might be peeling back layers that should remain untouched. What if we unearth feelings or memories that shatter everything? Her words stung. The core of their familial structure felt fragile, and yet, he sensed that the act of discovery held the promise of freedom. Maybe it was exactly what they needed. Sometimes, Michael replied, his voice firm, what appears shattered can be rebuilt into something stronger. Isn't that why we're here? Lily bit her lip, weighing her fears against his determination. A flicker of understanding sparked between them, revealing the shared bond they had yet to fully harness. Perhaps their grandmother had painted those portraits to free herself from chains that bound her spirit. Could they not do the same? As they stepped closer to the blue painting, Michael's fingers brushed the textured surface, and it came alive beneath his touch. The colors hummed in solidarity with his heartbeat. A vision danced at the periphery of his thoughts, an intimation of the old wounds their grandmother had endured, murals of life that, though fractured, still held profound beauty. Together, he repeated, an anchor against the tide of fear that threatened to wash over them. We have to face this together. He steeped himself in her legacy while inching towards his own potential, feeling shifts in his understanding of vulnerability, resilience, a domino effect igniting within him. He could sense it wouldn't just be about reclaiming their grandmother's legacy, it would emerge as a cornerstone for his identity. This was the moment he needed. What if we create a project around these paintings? He proposed, voice steadying with resolve. We could host an exhibition, share her story, expose her struggles and triumphs. We could reclaim her narrative and, in doing so, uncover our own. Lily's eyes flickered with fear and intrigue, each sentiment a reflection of the internal battle that raged within her. But what if the truth is too painful? What if it eclipses her story instead of celebrating it? The vulnerability of those questions seemed to vibrate in the air, a challenge to both of them. Understanding isn't about glorifying the pain, it's about creating context. There's power in knowing where we come from, and perhaps it will evolve how we move forward, too, he replied, desperation whispering in his tone. Lily remained silent, her internal compass still spinning. While Michael felt certainty build within him, she brooded over the gray stretches of uncertainty. In an intrepid gesture, Michael took her hand, grounding them together. If we do this, it's because we owe it to ourselves and to her to find clarity amidst the chaos. It's our chance to step into our power. As they locked eyes, Michael felt her resolve shift from hesitation toward an open door to something greater. They would take this leap together, yet behind the gravity of their potential discovery, a shadow lingered, an unspoken fear that could either strengthen their bond or rend them apart. Just as Lily began to nod, a loud crash echoed from the other room, breaking the fragile veneer of their moment. Both of their heads snapped in the direction of the sound, trepidation swirling as adrenaline coursed through Michael's veins. What had they yet to unearth, and was their truth truly ready for discovery? A knot tightened in his stomach, as an unfamiliar urgency swept over them, showing that sometimes, the quest for truth demands far more than one is willing to give. How could such chaos disrupt our journey? He thought. As they exchanged apprehensive glances, dread and anticipation coiled around the promises they had just forged, compelling them to confront the unknown together. What lay beyond the door waiting for them could change everything. Michael's heart raced as he exchanged a glance with Lily, their shared anxiety palpable in the charged silence. He could feel the weight of the painted canvases behind them as if they held their collective breaths, watching, waiting for their next move. The sudden crash echoed like a dark omen demanding urgent attention. What was that? Lily whispered, her voice trembling, eyes wide with fear. I don't know, but we should check it out, Michael replied, his mind racing to comprehend the implications of stepping into the unknown. He pulled open the door, and the ugly slant of light spilled into the dim room, revealing a mess of toppled bookcases and scattered papers, a swirling chaos amidst the familiar objects. It felt as though secrets long hidden had erupted from their confines. As they stepped into the wreckage, Michael's gaze fell upon a journal peeking through the debris, its cover marred by dust and debris yet still holding a sense of mystery. Intrigued, he reached down to grab it, brushing off the grime. The worn leather felt comforting in his hands, as if it was an artifact from a time long past. "What are you doing?" Lily's voice rose in protest, but Michael was already flipping through the pages. Faded ink danced across the paper, each line heavy with emotion, the words written in their grandmother's sweeping script. "Hush. This might be important." He spoke absent-mindedly, caught in the thrall of discovery, his eyes scanning the entries. And then, he found a paragraph that sent a chill reverberating through his core. It chronicled a family secret, a brush with despair that ran deeper than he could have ever imagined. Lily moved closer, peering through the chaos at the journal. "Michael, don't. We shouldn't invade her privacy like this. It feels wrong." "Isn't that exactly what we're doing anyway?" he countered, heat rising in his chest. The urgency of uncovering the truth now seemed an inherent part of them. "Lily, if we want to understand her art, we need to understand her life. We cannot pretend her struggles don't exist." The air thickened with tension, Lily's posture tense as she absently tugged at her necklace. He could see it, a flicker of resolve battling against her unease. "But this could tear us apart. Or it could bring us together," he insisted, stepping closer, the words tumbling out with newfound clarity. "What if she wrote this for us to find? What if she wanted us to know? Maybe she kept it hidden not to protect us but to prepare us." Reluctantly, Lily sighed, and Michael pressed on. They had both sensed the tremor beneath their familial foundation, and this could be their chance to stabilize it. He reached for her hand again, gripping it tightly. "Let us face this. Together." But it was when he turned another page that another truth emerged, an unsettling revelation. It detailed not just struggles but a traumatic event, a betrayal intertwined with their family lineage, one that haunted his grandmother like a specter from the past. It was dark and poignant, and as the depth of it swallowed him whole, he found himself questioning everything he'd ever understood about his family's legacy. "Michael, stop," Lily urged, panic seeping into her tone as she wrestled for control. "This is too much. No, it's crucial. We can't hide from our past. It's a piece of us." His mind raced as he processed the implications, grappling with the dual weight of family honor and personal honesty. "No matter what we find," she said fiercely, "we have to be careful. We can't allow it to consume us. What if it pushes us apart?" He inhaled sharply, realizing the magnitude of their decision. The real threat lay not in the truths they'd discover, but in their potential to dismantle everything they had built, everything they thought they knew about love, loyalty, and the past. And just as he was about to reassure her, the unmistakable sound of footsteps resonated from the hallway, growing closer, heralding an interruption that could ultimately redefine their journey. What if someone stops us? What if they can't handle the truth? He thought, as a figure emerged, shadowed against the light. The moment of clarity hung in the air like storm clouds ready to burst. Everything was about to change, with their reckoning lurking just within reach. Michael's body tensed as the footsteps approached, a cacophony of thoughts flooding his mind. He turned to Lily, eyes wide, caught between fear and the electric thrill of impending revelation. Their grandmother's past unfolded before him, an intricate tapestry woven with secrets that felt like both a burden and an invitation to delve deeper. As the door creaked open, his heart quickened, and he felt the weight of the journal resting in his hands, almost as if it bore the scars of the family history they were about to confront. The figure that entered was familiar and unexpected, his mother, Margaret, a resolute woman with a fierce air that reminded him of their grandmother. The very last person he wanted to see at this moment. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her eyes narrowing, sensing the charged atmosphere instantly. "Mom, we were just looking." Lily started, but Michael interrupted, stepping forward, compelled by a fierce urgency. "No, we need to talk," he asserted, his voice shaking slightly yet laced with determination. "We found something. Something about Grandma." Margaret's demeanor shifted, her brow furrowed, lips pressed into a thin line. "Put that down, Michael. You shouldn't be reading her journals. They're private." You don't understand. His anger flared as he shot back, what I don't understand is why we weren't allowed to know. Why these family secrets are buried like corpses in a graveyard. This isn't just about her anymore. It's about us. The tension filled the small room, vibrating among the neglected canvases and scattered papers. Not only was he grappling with the truths of his family, but he was now confronting his mother's resistance, which felt like an attempt to barricade the past. Lily glanced nervously between the two, empathy rooted in her voice as she tried to mediate. Mom, we want to understand. Margaret held up a hand, silencing her. Some things are better left unexamined. You think knowing will help? Sometimes, ignorance is a blessing. Michael almost scoffed at her words. Ignorance might be comfortable, but it was a poison slowly feeding off their collective spirit. What if these truths could liberate us? For so long, the family had tiptoed around the specters of betrayal and silence, but he now felt compelled to wrestle with them to break free from their chains. Mom, he said softly, a different approach emerging, one that stemmed from vulnerability rather than aggression. What if confronting this brings us closer? What if Grandma didn't write this just for her sake, but for ours? Maybe it was her way of helping guide us through the darkness she faced. As a flicker of uncertainty danced across his mother's expression, Michael sensed a crack forming in her defenses. He pressed on, we're not trying to hurt the memory. We want to honor it, to finally understand what tortured her. And maybe, we can heal too. The room fell into a heavy silence, the weight of his words hanging in the air. He saw his mother's resolve begin to crack, revealing layers of grief and fear that had long been hidden beneath her stern exterior. Margaret's voice quivered slightly as she finally spoke. You think it's that simple? This isn't just about understanding. It's an unraveling. Once you start pulling at that thread, you don't know where it will lead. A knot tightened in Michael's chest, he knew she was right. The truth could threaten to pull everything apart, their identities, their family ties, the very fabric of their lives. Yet he was unwilling to remain paralyzed by fear. Maybe it's time we find out, he replied, his voice steady. What other choice do we have? His mother looked at him with a mix of fear and something else, perhaps pride or a flicker of understanding. Just then, the air shifted. Could this be a turning point? But what would this journey demand of them? Before he could consider the implications, the journal slipped to the floor, its pages splayed wide, revealing another entry that appeared unfinished, almost begging for completion. It bore a name Michael couldn't recognize, a name that loomed ominously, one that hinted at even deeper secrets within their family history. What if we opened Pandora's box? He thought, heart pounding at what lay ahead. The path before them unfurled with both promise and peril, and as they hovered on the brink of revelation, a new, unsettling question arose: what more had they yet to discover? The air thickened with anticipation as Michael knelt by the open journal, his curiosity flaring as he scanned the unfinished entry. Each word seemed to pulse with an electric urgency, a desperate plea suspended in time, waiting to be unveiled. His heart raced at the prospect of deciphering secrets that could reshape their understanding of family ties and personal identities. Michael, we shouldn't. Lily whispered, her voice trembling with a blend of fear and excitement. But he remained entranced by the silhouette of the name that hovered at the edge of his consciousness. It felt like a thread woven into their life's fabric, a thread that yearned to be pulled. Ignoring Lily's caution, he reached for the journal, his fingers itching to discover more. We can't back down now, he insisted, bolstered by the realization that what remained hidden could carry the weight of generations. What if this name was a key, a way to unlock the lessons of their grandmother's life? Margaret folded her arms tightly, protective instincts flaring as she stepped forward. You don't understand the potential consequences of digging too deep. The past is traumatic, it can haunt us in ways we can't anticipate. A wave of frustration surged through Michael. Wasn't that exactly why they needed to confront it? His mother's words echoed with a familiar pattern of avoidance, a tendency he was desperate to overcome. He had spent too long tiptoeing around his family's emotional graveyard. It was time to transform this cycle of silence into one of courage and understanding. "Mom," he began, tapping into the vulnerability that helped soften their exchange moments earlier. "But what if this helps us fill in the pieces? Those that could finally tell Grandma's story. We could learn how to navigate risks in our own lives, break cycles that have haunted us for too long." Margaret's eyes flickered momentarily with uncertainty, and for the first time, Michael noticed herself retreating. A part of her seemed inclined to consider his resonance. But would fear once again manipulate her conclusion? Lily, sensing the shift, leaned in, her voice steady yet filled with the burden of responsibility. "Sometimes, exploring pain can be the first step toward healing, Mom. Isn't that what Grandma might have wanted? For us to leave behind her unspoken burdens?" A silence fell, heavy and charged. Michael could feel his heartbeat echoing in the space between them. It was a moment poised on a knife's edge, their collective breaths drawing tighter as they confronted an unrelenting past. What if Margaret could see that they were not just seeking secrets, but a path toward resolution and understanding? Compelled by the urgency of revelation, Michael turned back to the journal. The name struck him like a lightning bolt. Elena. An unfamiliar entity that now loomed large amid the faded ink and forgotten memories. Who was she? What role did she play in their grandmother's life? As he wrestled with these questions, his thoughts fractured. Other names and faces began unfolding, weaving into the potential tapestry of betrayals and unforeseen alliances. He felt an inkling of resolve germinate deep within him. What if uncovering this name could lead them to a truth that reshaped their concept of family? Before he could continue, Margaret's voice shattered his train of thought. "Will you stop? Do you really have to do this?" The anguish in her tone was palpable, a rawness that tainted her composure. Did she see them as bridge builders or wildfire starters? Embarking on this journey demanded far more than mere exploration of the past. It beckoned a confrontation with their core values, beliefs, and identities. He caught sight of Lily once more, her apprehension mirrored by his own. He realized they were being called forth, together, to navigate this turbulent river stretching toward the unknown. Michael's breath caught in his throat as he made his choice, the choice to embrace complexity over the comfort of ignorance. "I'm doing it. I need to know." His mother's eyes darkened with apprehension, while he felt himself teetering on the edge of a precipice, balancing between familial obligation and personal liberation. What awaited beyond this threshold that could either shatter everything or lead them toward true transformation? As they stood in poised confrontation, another question lingered ominously in Michael's mind: could the truth buried within the past really lead to the reclamation of their future? Michael pressed his fingertips against the fragile pages of the journal, the yellowed paper seeming to pulse beneath his touch with a life of its own. Each word whispered promises of revelation, beckoning him into a world of hidden complexities he'd barely begun to fathom. Yet, uncertainty slithered at the edges of his resolve. Was he ready for the truths that lay ahead? He sought a connection, a bridge that would span the chasm dividing him from his family's past. What had shaped their lives, their stories? The words, Elena, seemed to anchor that inquiry, wrapping around his mind like ivy entwining an old tree. He realized this wasn't about mere curiosity, it was a quest for understanding, a way to traverse the intricate landscape of their family legacy. But not everyone embraced this journey. Margaret's expression had shifted, fear was etched across her face like a storm on the horizon. He winced at the sight, reminded that digging into the past could threaten familial bonds, not just unveil enlightening truths. His determination flickered as the pressure mounted, the weight of both his mother's distress and his own nascent conviction. "Mom, hear me out," he implored, each word carefully measured as he maneuvered through their emotional entanglement. "This could bring us clarity. We're not just digging to scratch old wounds, we're looking to heal them." Beneath the passion in his voice, he searched her eyes for a glimmer of understanding, a hint that she too might want to escape the suffocating chains of silence that their family's history had forged. Her arms remained crossed, a fortress against his burgeoning insight. Yet in that moment, Michael glimpsed something deeper, an aching need within her to tackle the very issues she feared. It entangled fear and hope into a complex braid. Lily shifted beside him, her presence empowering. We can't let our fears speak louder than our need for knowledge, Mom. If there's pain in the past, uncovering it might be the first step to tearing down the walls we've built around us. A visible shift rippled through Margaret's stance. The lines etched onto her forehead softened for just a second as hesitation wove through her anger. Could this shared confrontation be what they needed? But doubt crept in, and she retreated further behind her emotional barricade. As if sensing that the moment could slip away, Michael focused on the journal. This was about more than his heritage, it was about transforming his understanding of himself within this lineage. He needed to unearth whatever shadows lingered, and confront the lives that intertwined to form his own. What treasures or hazards might emerge in the pursuit of understanding? With a deep breath, Michael opened the journal again. Beyond the name Elena lay fragments of unprocessed memories, relationships woven through the threads of love and pain. How to piece them together? He could almost see the kaleidoscope of voices, botched conversations clashing against moments of tenderness. He zeroed in on the narrative that begged him to unravel it, allowing his heart to guide him beyond personal fears. What if Elena wasn't just a stranger, but represented a missing piece in his identity? The prospect kindled a fresh resolve within him, a flicker that began to burgeon into a flame. Mom, I understand your fears, but let me show you what we might find. The tension crackling between them threatened to burst, as he stood uneasy yet grounded in this burgeoning courage. It felt bold, even reckless, but the insistence of the past coupled with an instinctual need for truth propelled him forward. Margaret's defenses faltered in the wake of his sincerity. What if it's worse than we think? She queried, emotion swirling in her voice. A single word echoed in the depths of Michael's mind: possibility. That's just it, Mom. What if it's also better? What if it opens a door to healing? He realized, in that moment of communion, that real transformation could stem from confronting the hidden shards of their family puzzle. Would this journey unravel deep-seated issues or weave them into newfound connections? As the journal rested heavily in his lap, Michael couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the precipice of discovery without truly knowing what lay beneath. His heart raced. What revelations awaited in the mere act of seeking? In that charged silence, the anticipation clung like fog, threatening to envelop them in its somber grasp. Would they choose to delve into the depths of their past, or would fear anchor them in a tumultuous present? The decision hung thick in the air, waiting to be seized, and the intensity of that moment marked the beginning of an unraveling not just of the family history, but of Michael himself. Now, he was faced with one profoundly daunting question: could the truth waiting in the shadows redefine not only their past, but also their future? With the journal resting heavily in his hands, Michael felt both the weight of his family's secrets and a flicker of determination igniting inside him. The name Elena danced on his tongue like a challenge, the promise of discovery mingled with trepidation. Beneath years of silence lay a reservoir of potential, and he realized this very moment could pivot the course of their lives. Mom, we can't keep running from this, Michael said, his voice resonating with conviction. He faced Margaret, a fierce storm of emotions swirling in her expression. This isn't just a chapter in our family's history, it's our chance to reclaim who we are. Your past shaped us, and it's time we embrace it. Margaret's posture softened slightly, but doubt flickered in her eyes. You think knowing will make it easier? It won't, Michael. Some pain isn't meant to be unearthed. No pain is ever truly erased. It just festers in shadows, crippling us with fear, he countered. His voice held a firm anchor of determination. Maybe by confronting these truths, we can finally heal, not just for ourselves but to honor Grandma, to honor everything she sacrificed. As he spoke, he sensed Lily's support beside him, a quiet but powerful synergy igniting the air. The invisible threads of their shared experience tethered them together, urging them to explore the depths of their grandmother's legacy. What if the truth is too painful to navigate? Margaret asked, her hesitance coiling around them. What if it's worse than we think? Slowly, Michael opened the journal again, ready to dive deeper. Let us face it together. We can't assume it's all darkness. There may be light, too, wisdom waiting to be gleaned from the past. He turned a page, reading aloud a passage filled with vividly raw emotions. As the ink seeped into the air between them, he caught sight of his mother shifting, the unease mingling with curiosity. Listen, he urged, buoyed by a sense of unity he hadn't felt before. This could be cathartic. It may lead us to a place of understanding that has eluded our family for generations. Margaret's walls began to crack, and he caught the glimmer of something profound, a hint of vulnerability breaking through her brave facade. What if we find pieces of her we didn't know existed? Lily ventured softly, holding Margaret's gaze with earnestness. What if exploring this legacy brings us closer, not apart? The air shimmered with unspoken possibilities. Michael saw his mother's breath hitch as if she were wrestling with a long-buried fear. Perhaps it was a fear of losing control over the narrative of their family. "Mom," he implored, meeting her eye with unwavering sincerity. "We may stumble, but we want to honor Grandma. We can navigate this confusion together." The room fell into a heavy silence, holding its breath as Margaret weighed their words. Eventually, she nodded, albeit hesitantly. "Fine. Let us see what you've uncovered, but understand this doesn't guarantee peace." With renewed purpose, Michael flipped to the next entry, revealing passages concerning Elena's impact on his grandmother's life, detailing her as a vibrant yet troubled figure. Each word felt like a breadcrumb leading them down a path of understanding, and he sensed it resonated through his mother, encouraging a potency of shared history. What sort of influence did she have? Lily asked, leaning in closer, curiosity illuminating her features. What conflict propelled Grandma and her onwards, together or apart? As Michael continued, he noted the layered complexity of his grandmother's relationships, skimming the surface of an emotional tempest. Through the pain and hardship, he glimpsed profound resilience, a fierce spirit yearning to be remembered and cherished. He began to understand this journey was not solely about unveiling darker truths, but also about reclaiming the narrative of strength. "Here!" he suddenly exclaimed, pointing to an entry reflecting a turning point encapsulating both light and shadow. She painted this during a time of turmoil. It's a depiction of struggle, but also of fierce love. In these moments, she found creativity, even hope. As he spoke, a shift rippled through Margaret, her walls began dissolving, revealing a woman wrought with her own unresolved conflicts. Slowly, she stepped closer, drawn into their shared exploration. "Does this mean you believe she wasn't just defined by her pain?" "Exactly," Michael affirmed, meeting her gaze with radiant resolve. "She wasn't just a painter hiding her work. Her art was a testament to survival, a celebration of complexity that deserves both recognition and understanding." Tension seemed to evaporate like steam in the air, replaced by realization. To untangle their family's legacy meant more than unearthing pain, it encompassed honoring the whole narrative, encompassing both fracture and beauty. And with every turn of the page, Michael sensed the faint heartbeat of healing echo through him, the shared legacy morphing into a reinvigorating grace. Understanding had emerged, illuminating their path toward connection, hope, and newfound clarity. With newfound determination kindled in their hearts, they collectively leaned into the past, ready to embrace the vivid tapestry that combined both shadows and brilliant hues of their family history. As the revelations poured forth, tracing the indelible lines of pain and resilience, the trio stood poised at the threshold of transformation. They had begun to dive into a world where shadows danced alongside the glorious vibrancy of life. The questions remained, lingering like specters on the horizon. What other truths would they unearth? And how would confronting these revelations unravel yet redefine the meaning of family? But as they embraced the unfolding chapters of their shared narrative, they felt the exhilarating push toward a future, one that would allow them to step into the light, reclaiming not just their grandmother's legacy but their own intertwined identities anew. With a collective resolve, they'd risen to face the unknown, ready to honor the complexities of their past and to step boldly into a brighter tomorrow. Now was the moment to embody their legacy. Subscribe now to ensure you never miss extraordinary journeys of personal transformation. Leave a like right now. Your support fuels our mission to share these life-changing stories. Comment your thoughts on the journey and your theories surrounding the monumental discoveries ahead. Let's discuss. And share instantly this video with 5 friends who need to witness the uplifting power of uncovering hidden truths and overcoming life's challenges. Don't wait even one more second to spread the inspiration.